Tommy Seaver.
Oh, yeah.
He had stepped on a nail.
Well, you want me to use that?
Yeah, you use that one when you pray. And,
Then when I get through that, bring it to you? Or you want me to come down?
no, you can do it from your seat since you got the
Or
microphone.
you want me to do it like
Lay it up on, yeah, turn it off. Just hold that down until the green light goes on.
okay.
And then just lay it right up here. Good morning. Is this on? Yeah. Good to see everyone this morning. Y'all are awake. I'm not hearing a word. We're delighted today to have Bernie and his wife Jocelyn and their daughter Emily with us to speak at services the next hour. And as you well know, we help support he and Tony at the Memphis School of Preaching, which we're glad to do, and looking forward to hearing from him to see kind of how he's grown since he was last here and how his preaching is. We're delighted to have him. Gil is going to lead us in prayer this morning. As you well know, Gerald Mills is in the hospital in Little Rock. He's been very sick earlier in the week, but Melinda told me this morning that her dad had a good night. He came off the ventilator and is breathing on his own with a little help of a little oxygen. That's the first positives that he's had this week, but I'm glad to report that. Tommy Seaver, as we mentioned Wednesday night, stepped on a nail and it's infected. Need to keep him in our prayers. Linda Yop was taken to the ER, but she's back home now, and whatever she had going wrong, obviously they can take care of. Roger Donaldson, who is a cousin of the Donaldsons and the Hogans, was in a bad wreck and is in the hospital in Nashville at the one that Sarge was in out north of town, TriStar. And he is in need of our prayers. And Samuel Porterfield, as we told you Wednesday night, got a good report on his tube was taken out of his stomach so he can eat normally. And he went to the doctor in Nashville about his breathing, and he got a good report there. And the doctor said, I don't want to see him for another year. So that is great news, and I know you're proud that he's progressed that far. Anyone else that need to pray for? Janita? Okay. Larry and Charlotte Lambert. Anyone else? Joyce Shelby's doing good. She's here. And Laura's doing good. She's here. It's good. Glad to tell her that. Gil?
Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for our families. Thank you for our church families. Lord, thank you for allowing us to be able to come out this morning and listen to your word. Lord, be with Ronnie as he teaches our class, and then later with our visiting preacher, Bernie Rodriguez, as he brings us a lesson. Lord, please be with all the ones who weren't able to get out this morning, our friends and family. Lord, please bless Rhonda Carver, George Dawes, my wife, our preacher, Jeff Scott, Bill Kraft, Gerald Mills, little baby Riggs, Samuel Porterfield, Linda Yop, Tommy Severs, Roger Donaldson, Larry and Charlotte Lambert. Lord, any others that I missed, please bless them. Lord, please continue to be with us, bless us, keep us safe and healthy, and someday, Lord, please give us a home in heaven. In Christ's name, amen.
Thank you, Gil. Last week we were on lesson 9. We finished that. We talked about how a growing church must have a strong Bible teachings. It must have totally committed Christians. Must have an enthusiastic and moral lives that we live because people are watching us. We must have a love for souls because why else would the church be in existence if we didn't have a love for souls? We should have here a warm and caring environment that people would feel welcome here and a meaningful worship. In other words, the preaching needs to be good. Maybe directly from the Bible and not just somebody teaching what he thinks. And then great Bible classes. We can't say enough about the Bible classes because that's where our young people are and that's where you are right now. So you can participate in the class and add to or take from whatever's being said or taught. But we didn't touch one area at all last week about why we do what we do and why we use the Bible for our only guide. And that was the leadership. We didn't talk about it at all, and I think it's interesting that the author of this book gave us a whole chapter to talk about it. and that's how important that he felt that it was, and also in Timothy and Titus, we know that they put special emphasis on an elder and the eldership and the leadership of a congregation. Now, Gary, Teddy, and I would be good pin cushions to be sticking pins in if you want to. So I say if you got something to say about us, say it. Our skin's thick. Gary does have a lot of guns. I do know how to use one. If it gets too bad, we may have to revert to that, but I don't think it would be. But when we ask you anything about eldership, do not hold back if you feel something that you need to say. Some people just don't want elders. Is that a fair statement? Bernie says it is. Some people just don't want elders. If you don't believe it, be one and ask them to do something. And you'll find out, I ain't going to do it. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. And what do you do when they just don't want an eldership? I would hope we would take the time to study with them to understand the purpose of that eldership and that there is a reason for having these men and there's a reason for doing what we do. And it's a catch-all and a stop. You know, Harry Truman said, and the buck stops here. Well, the eldership of a church is where the buck stops. If you have a problem with anything in the church and you've gone through the way that the Bible tells us to resolve something, then the only resort you have is to the eldership. And if the eldership is not willing to take the step, to step up and deal with the problem, then that eldership's not worth its salt. The eldership has to be the one who has the final say on worldly issues here on earth. Now, the Bible and God are, as you well know, are the final say. But on earth, on things which pertain to the congregation and just to this congregation would be what your eldership does. We have no say over Pocahontas, Roger Springs, New Hope, Bolivar, what they do. We can talk to them about what they do, and they can talk to us about what we do. But as far as having a say as to what they do, we don't. Our only responsibility is to this group right here in Middleton. And our eldership is not elected. You don't, all four, Ronnie, say right hand all against him. It's not done that way. An eldership is appointed. It's not elected. It's not a job. It's not a job. It is a position where we can help by stepping up to step down. I don't remember exactly who the president was, but someone was, I think it was Garfield, made the statement that when he took the oath for the presidency, he said, "I'm actually stepping down to take the presidency." He was an elder in the church. That was his supreme leadership, he felt, was to be an elder. An elder is something that the men cannot take lightly. I know for a fact that some of you have been asked about being an elder. I have heard your response. I have heard from others the response that I didn't actually hear myself. And it should be something that we desire. It should be something that we would agree to. But we're going to talk about some of the reasons people don't agree to it, and some of the reasons why others are not even asked. The one that I don't want to say bothers me the most, but it's the one I think about the most, is I am held accountable for Abe and Yvette, Bo and Pat, Bill, Laura, and I can go all the way around the room. That on Judgment Day, if I haven't, and Teddy hasn't, and Gary hasn't dealt with a problem that you might have, not that the ones I named had one, but if you had a problem or anything else, if I hadn't dealt with it, then I'm going to be held accountable for it. And Eddie's not going to be accountable for those other people. And Bill's not accountable for those other people. But the three of us are. And that's the one that, I don't want to say bothers me, but it's the one I think about the most, especially when I look out and don't see them in class, when I see them in their normal life and how they live, and I might approach them and talk to them and want them to get their life a little better back toward God. It's not always taken with the love that I hope that we have when we give it to them. It's almost like they take offense to it. Eddie asked a couple of weeks ago about why we don't do church discipline. You know, and that's a real good question. Since he asked that, I've noticed one congregation that did, close to us, who had a Sunday where they disfellowshipped X number of people. And the reason they did, because I called the elders and asked them, is they had tried every way they could to get these people to straighten their lives out, and it hadn't occurred. And so they just laid the law down to them. You know, they went one-on-one. They carried two witnesses. They brought it before the church, and they still wanted to live the type of life they were living. And the elders went to them again, and 3 years passed, and no change had been made, and so they did disfellowship. Most people quit coming to church before the disfellowshipment occurs. Therefore, it takes care of itself. But an elder is put in that responsibility of making that final say. And if you don't think it weighs on you when you go lay down and sleep at night, just ask one of the three of us, does it weigh on you? And it does. Having said all that, the men of this congregation should not be any different than the qualifications given for an elder should apply to you the same as it applied to us. I'm going to say that again. The qualifications that Timothy and Titus give for an elder, there's not a thing in there that you shouldn't do, male or female. Male's the ones I'm talking to right now. Then we're held accountable for. We all should be above reproach, faithful, temperate, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable, apt to teach, not given to drunkenness, not gentle, quarrelsome, not a lover of money. I mean, that should be any of us. But the one thing that stands out is desire. And that's what we're going to spend most of the time talking about, is desire. Proverbs 29:18 says, where there is no vision, the people perish. Kind of put that in your own words. What does that mean? Where there is no vision, the people perish.
There's no goals to achieve. If you're at a standstill, then what happens? People die out. The next generation comes on. What does the next generation know? We've always preached that we're one generation, we could be to them. It's our responsibility as individual Christians is to reach out and try to set up Bible studies, try to let your light shine. So because of that you have that question mark, always have that question mark. We don't want to be a puddle of water. We just a little pond like we don't drain. You dry up. So we want to be able to blossom. And of course, that comes back on leadership. The leadership saying, well, we're going to do the same thing we did 10 years ago. Things change. The COVID changed the world. We had to go back, we had to do things differently. But what happened? God's church is still here. God's people are still here. We're still wanting to love God. We're still wanting to advance out. We don't want to be a puddle of water. We want to be able to reach out.
Dick has said in a nutshell, we have to be growing. We can't be just a puddle of water. We have to have something water going into the puddle to keep it alive. In order for us to be a viable church, we have to set goals. We have to ask you to create things or change, not change for the better, for the worse, but change for the betterment. Anything that we might be doing. Why do we have Sunday school classes? Why are we always looking for teachers? To make them better and to make them more. Right now we have, in our teenage class, we have some kids that need to be in a class by themselves. But we don't have a teacher, and we don't have one or two that fit in that category. And as I hope you know, that it's tough to teach one or two. I mean, it's not hard at all to talk to a group, but it is tough to when it gets down to one or two. But we need teachers coming on behind the teachers that are there now. We need a teacher for their class. I'll soon be 76 years old. I'm already losing my voice from time to time. And if I lose it totally, Sarge will be tickled, but I can't teach. So I'd have to sit where you're sitting. So somebody needs to step up and teach the class. And someone needs to teach the teenage class, and someone needs to teach the first and second graders. I mean, we're always needing teachers. And then VBS. VBS, if it was like the one that I went to and Patricia went to back in the 60s, back in the old building, I doubt very seriously we'd have a kid coming to that VBS. So we changed it. Did we change it for the bad or just change it to be changed? No, we changed it because the kids have changed. And next year will be different than this year. And we have to put that in front of you so that you know that we're going to try to make it better. And then another word, we went to Crown Point, Indiana, 4 years ago. Why was that? Well, to help Danielle and Randy teach the word up there, but also to make that church grow. But did it help anybody? I think it helped us more as much as it did them, because we got out and worked, and we get out and did something, and we had to depend on ourselves to back each other up and to make sure that it was got done. Now we had some help from Crown Point, and we have some friends, and we're making contact. And every once in a while, I'll be sitting there in my easy chair, and my phone will ding, and Randy or Danielle will let me know, or Alex will let us know of something that has been good that has been done since our effort. What am I saying? I'm saying that the elders here are trying to put things in front of you that would make you be a part of that vision. If this church doesn't have a vision to grow, it won't grow. If this church has a vision not to maintain God's word, it will not maintain. If it has a vision to become worldly, it can become really worldly real quick. If we just let the wrong people speak and the wrong people be in charge. The Bible puts forth its leadership in 1 Timothy 3, Titus 1. It tells us it needs to be a plurality of elders in Acts 14, Acts 15, and Acts 20. The eldership should be a limited. I know of a congregation not far from here that 5 years ago put 6 men up for 3 positions that they were wanting elders for. They did it the right way. They asked the congregation to think about the people that they put forward and to let them know if anybody had a problem with any one of them. And then they asked them to pick 3 out of the 6 because they already had like 8 or 10. So they weren't going to add all 6 of them, but were going to add 3. And so this was done. And the very next Sunday, after they appointed 3 new elders, one of the guys appointed moved his membership because he wasn't selected. What does that tell you? Well, Eddie?
It tells me it was about him instead of the church.
Okay. Eddie says it was about him instead of the church. Teddy was going to say something. Somebody else going to say something? What does that tell you about him when he moved his membership the very next Sunday? The guy obviously was qualified, or he had never been put up. But he had a flaw. And evidently everybody saw it because he wasn't selected. Now, I do know that church went to the guy and tried to convince him to come back, and he became belligerent. I'm saying that the people were smarter than we give them credit for. They knew this guy. They knew how he would react, or thought they did, and they didn't need him in a position of leadership. And so he solved their problem, but it also showed how little he was. It is not something that you campaign for and say, let's say we're going to put Bill's name up. And Eddie goes around and says, you know, Bill's a really good guy. Yeah, let's make him one of our elders, and let's appoint him. Yeah, he's got this flaw and that flaw, but he really wants it. And Bill goes to Paula and goes to Ann and goes to Joe and goes to Linda and Linda. And he says, I really want this job. It's not that kind of position. The congregation sees your work and then asks you to be an elder. You do not campaign or get votes to become an elder. If you do, then I think there's a problem in your character. And in the Bible it says, whoever aspires, desires, seeks the work of an elder, seeks a good work. So what does he do if he doesn't campaign for it? What does that person do to let the congregation know that he would be willing to serve? Yes.
If he's qualified to be an elder, he's going to live the life he's been living to show people that he is worthy of this position, that he's capable of this position of leading others.
He's not going to change because he was elected. It's just to continue to live in the life that he has been living, been putting forward for so many years. That is so true. And aspire, every man in here should aspire to be an elder. Everybody should aspire or seek or be living a life that person would be qualified or okay as an elder. But I would aspire to be a center on the basketball team and dunk basketballs and get all the rebounds and do everything. But I can't. I'm not that tall. I got a few rebounds, but I didn't get that many. I sure couldn't score any points. But we desire something or aspire something. What does that mean? I want to be taller, but I can't. I want to be better basketball shooter, but I can't. What does it mean to desire or aspire for something? How many figures I got up? So everybody is awake. I wasn't sure. What does it mean to aspire or desire or seek?
You gotta want to pursue that situation, and then you can do, buy a book, go to the library, find out what's the best way to achieve that. You know, we've got audio now, we've got different things, it depends on what you want to do. You want to be a better basketball player, you're gonna watch some TV, the players playing, or you're gonna go to a game, and you're gonna study certain people and how they react to how they play. And you're gonna grow from that. You're gonna grow from, if you want to pursue
and grow from there. So, to aspire or seek something doesn't mean you campaign for it, but you live such a life that others notice you're living a life, and they come to you and say, I want you to be my elder. I want you to take the lead. I want you to take the harness and go from there. You're doing some works. We want you to do more. Not everybody aspires to be something. Some people are satisfied with the status quo, and there's nothing wrong with that. I personally have been the type person, I can't be satisfied with everything being just like it is right now. I have tried things in my life, some of them successfully, some of them not so successfully, and failed. But I don't consider them failures because I tried. I tried. Would I go back and change something? Yep. I sure would if I had a chance. But first of all, I can't buy years back into my life, so some of them can't change. But you desire the work. You want to be in the position to make decisions. And that's a good thing. If you work at Dover, do you always want to be the guy that's putting screw A onto bolt B every day? Or do you aspire to be the guy that puts the bolt and the screw into the machine that goes up and down? And then when you get that accomplished, do you aspire to be the person that goes out and sells that? If I say much more, it's like I'm tooting my own horn. And I don't mean to, but I'm just trying to say that we should desire the work. We should want to live a life where people would ask us, please consider being my elder. There may be things in your life that'll keep you from it. Now, do we take the sayings in Timothy and Titus? Is that a check off? Okay, he does this. He does this. He does this. Oops, he didn't do this one. Is that what that is in 1 Timothy 3 and Titus 1? Is it a check-off list that they're good or bad? Or is it that they must have these characteristics and others as well which are not named? And the author of the books mentioned two things. It doesn't say a thing about lying, and it doesn't say a thing about racist things. But we wouldn't want a person that's a liar, and we wouldn't want a person that is racist to be an elder. He is to be above reproach. Does that mean perfect, Bill? If we were looking for a perfect elder, how many would we have? Ann said 0, and I agree with her. What does it mean to be above reproach? Thank you. Thank you. That the person does the best that they can to be above reproach. Perfect? No. But he tries, and he tries with a reason, and he tries with the people in mind, with God in mind. I know for a fact, I can't speak for Teddy or Gary, but I was asked to be an elder back in 92. Harry and Don cornered me and talked to me, and I appreciated it. But after praying and thinking about it, I came to him, I said, I'm just not ready. I'm just not ready. They came to me again about 2000, and I prayed about it, I thought about it. I said, I'm just not ready. Don wasn't around then, but Larry Hughes was. I talked to my uncle, James Johnson, who had been an elder. I had talked to Brother Shelley, Sr., and JP, and both of them agreed when I answered some questions that they had, you're really not ready. I don't know what Teddy and Gary did. I'm sure they had similar conversations and similar approaches. But in 2006, when they approached me, I said, I'm ready. Now, you might not think I was ready, but I thought I was ready. And so I agreed to become an elder. It has been the most challenging thing I have ever done, and the most rewarding thing I have ever done, and the saddest thing I have ever done. For instance, when the Bible says, call an elder to pray over you, does that mean I have special powers? I don't think I do. But why does it say, and have the elders pray over you? And why does it say in another place, let the elders anoint you with oil? Does that mean that I have healing? And, you know, there's some questions that I toy with all the time. But I think it comes back to the above reproach and the desire as to why guys do or don't become elders. Yes.
I think, first of all, being an elder for sure, but anything else that you go at, if you don't have a love for that position that you're seeking, then you shouldn't take it. And if you have a love for that position, you're going to work at it the rest of your ability in your life to do the best you can at what you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to fail.
Joyce?
I think you can have all those qualifications, but still not be a good elder because you're not a leader. Some people can do all of that, even teach, but they're just not leaders.
Good point. Someone else?
I know it's a rewarding work, but I think it's probably the most hardest work there is. Not only are you trying to take care of yourself, but you got the whole flock. And you've got to show an example. And you got to teach the truth. And sometimes our opinion gets us in the way. And that's why I say it's the hardest thing you can do, because you got to call an ace sometimes. And it's not easy.
It's not easy, and it is easy. I mean, there's a right and a wrong, but it's well spoken and well taken. I think and this is something that I have just perceived from talking to their kids. I haven't had a person tell me anything along the line of what I'm fixing to say, but in talking to their kids, I suspicion what I'm fixing to say was being done. Everybody understand me? What I'm saying is just a suspicion from talking to their kids. I think some people don't, to our face, say what they really think. But on the way home from church or around the supper table, they speak it. That Ronnie, he ain't worth 15 cents as an elder. I wish somebody else would take his position and get him out of there. And the little ears say it. They hear it. And why do I say because the kids, because when I talk to the kids, back when I used to teach a teenage class, they would say things like, okay, I know where you probably heard that was around the kitchen table on the way home. Because it's so easy to browbeat the guy in charge and the guy that's leading because he's out front and you don't have any position or you're not where you can make a change, and so you're frustrated, and you say things to the kids that you wouldn't say to the elders themselves, which is where you should be saying it to begin with. You should come to the elders if you have a problem. You should come to the elders an elder if you got a problem with him and not the other two or three or however how many you got. We should all desire the work, and we should all be behind the one that has it and not nitpick him to death. And I think that's the reason a lot of men don't take the position of elder. It's because they know that what they have said or what they have heard people say about the person that's being considered. You know, when you teach, you kind of run it over in your mind what the goal is, what you're going to accomplish. And I had a goal this morning before I stood up and taught this class. I don't feel like I've reached any of it, any of the goals that I set. I'm not saying I didn't do some good, but the goal that I set, I have not attained. Let's go through some things in the last 5 minutes of class. Is an elder for life? If you're appointed an elder, does that mean you are an elder for life? Patsy? Pardon? Patsy says that once you're elected, that's a poor word, attain the position of elder, that it's not for life. You can quit or drop out being in that position. You can't quit doing the work that any Christian should do, but you can. It's not a position for life. And some people think it is once you are, kind of like teaching in Middleton. If you become a teacher in Middleton, you're there for the rest of your life because people don't step up. I know John Kennedy is toying with this right now. He would like about a month. He's been teaching for a year. He'd like about a month off, and he can't get a month off because nobody will step up. I understand today he's got a new teacher, and hopefully that one is stepping up. But it's one of those things where you just like a break every once in a while. Like I really appreciated Eddie taking that period of time that I was away from teaching. It gave me an opportunity to recharge and to hear some other thoughts and other methods. An elder is a guy that has followed the Lord long enough that he knows what the Lord expects of him and what he expects from the congregation. Dick?
I disagree. I think that you're an elder somewhat to a degree the rest of your life. And the reason why I say that is because the younger elders are going to look up to you. When people retire, what do they do? A lot of people retire, you don't ever see them. They're gone. They leave. They say, I'm retired. They don't have anything to do with that anymore. An elder, if an elder really has a desire to be an elder, he's going to be in leadership role the rest of his life.
have to be careful. Yes, I agree with Dick, if they remain faithful. But there are circumstances where an elder leaves the church, doesn't remain faithful, and he would not be an elder for life.
But if they don't desire it anymore,
Exactly.
then they don't have to be an elder.
I've known, I can think of two really close friends that were elders, and they got burned out. I mean, they had been, one of them was over a congregation of 600 plus, and one was over a congregation of 350. And they decided and called me and said, I need to talk to you about this. I'm fixing to resign as an elder. Now, Dick, both of them are in total agreement with what you just said. They were still available to, even though they weren't elders, to answer questions and give opinions to the younger ones, but they weren't holding the office of elder. And elders are guys that have faced the devil many times and won most of the time. And there are guys that take the Word of God seriously and constantly study it. And they're guys who are people who listen. Gary Gill, who I think the world of, told me one time, he said, you becoming an elder made you a better listener. I said, does that mean I used to just spout off real quick? He said, mm-hmm. He said, it made you listen more. And I got to think about it, and I think he's right. I may not be any better, but I am a better listener than I was before I put in that position. It is a great work. Everybody shouldn't be scared of it if you're living a Christian life. Everybody should aspire to be and should desire to be, and some aren't. Les Joyce just got through saying, some aren't leaders and some are. But how do you know unless you don't try? You could try and after a year or two say, this is not for me. And there'll be no hard feelings towards you at all. And we must do that. We must get more younger people aspiring to be. Joyce?
Well, that's what I was fixing to say. All three of y'all are 75 or older. Our deacons, except for Craig, are that age. That's an old age, whether we want to admit it or not. We need more young deacons to carry out the work, to get them in the role of leadership.
Okay. Which brought up another thing that we hadn't touched on at all. Joyce just alluded to the fact that they make them deacons and then we make them elders. They're not. It's not a stepping stone.
No, it isn't.
Not at all. But that's normally what happens. Thank you.
It is not an easy subject.
Well, when you
And when you think also that most of the people here have never been exposed to another congregation. In my younger days, moving all over the world, I've seen congregations that, Lord knows I'm happy I don't ever have to go back to. They were just,
know the feeling. I know the feeling.
we went to one in Florida in which the elder, and that was back during the days when my wife and children were faithful. They called us in to interview us before they would allow us to come to worship there. And I mean, they asked questions that were just, and I should have spoke up and said it, we're going to continue this subject next week. I should have spoke up.
Well, you can speak up next week at the
I
beginning of the
will.
class,
I promise you I will.
and we'll deal with it and move on to the lesson.
But it was nothing, what I want folks here to hear is to have three dedicated Christians who have the attitude that you all have about being an elder. That's just fantastic. I mean, it really is.
Thank you.
I just,
Amelie, how are you? Is school good? Don't you go to school? And you learn to sit still and you learn your ABCs? You don't learn your ABCs?
Yes, we're learning in the house.
I bet you do.